Last thing I remember was getting ready for the wedding. His wedding, oh god, he never showed up for the wedding. Where was Taehyung? Was he okay? How many time has passed? He needed to show up. Otherwise, he would think that he left him. What would the media say? Oh god, where was he? The thought never left him, and he tried moving his arm and legs. He feels so heavy, and he couldn't even stand up on his legs. What the heck happened to him? A painful groan left his mouth, and he braced himself on his leg, but that jelly-like feeling and shiver made him collapse on the floor once again. Jungkook couldn't move, and after a few more tries, he gave up. He kept laying on that cold floor in the room and waited for someone to rescue him. He didn't even have any idea about the situation. Was it the short prank that his friends were playing before the wedding? If it was that, they needed to stop. It was not funny. He didn't know how much time has passed. He just lay there on the floor when the door was cracked open and dim light over the room for outside. He wasn't blind after all. Jungkook opened that eyes and fixed them in front of him. He groaned and tried to sit up and brace himself against a wall. "Who are you?" he asked in a weak and cracky voice. "What do you want? What I am doing here? How many time has passed?" he asked in panic. The man seems to be tall and lean, with muscles. He stepped forward and both clicked him on that void floor. "An hour," he spoke. His voice was thick and sent chill down to his spine. "Look, whoever you are, if you need money, I will give it to you. Just spare me. It's my wedding day, and I have to show up there. Please," he begging in front of the man. The stranger chuckled and threw his head back. "Oh, I need money," he chuckled, as if he mocking him. "I will give it to you. Just let me go." "Stop," the man yelled, making him flinch. "You have to choice, John," he spoke with maniac. What was his name again? He spoke over his shoulder to the man standing in the doorway. "Jungkook, boss," the man said. He grinned. Jungkook could feel the smile over his face, but he couldn't see the feature due to his absence of light. "You are not given a choice in that way here?" he asked, but it wasn't a question. "Now, I'm going to give you a choice. Jungkook or Taehyung?" he asked. "What?" he stumbled. No, it couldn't be Jungkook, was thinking. "No. Choose, John. I don't have all day," he hissed, gripping his jaw. "There am a man keeping an eye on your brother. Right at this time, you want to see it," he said toward the man in the doorway, and he bought a phone. He opened the phone and the video started playing. Jungkook was talking to their mother, and they stood in the mansion lounge. The video looked like it was taken for the small camera, and it was a live recording. Whoever was recording the video was moving around the hall. "If you choose to marry Kim's son, he will be dead. But if you choose your brother, all will be fine." He smiled and Jungkook felt the sweat dripping over his neck in panic. What was he supposed to do? Choose? He screamed, making a cringe and fear. Jungkook didn't want to say anything. Nothing but another scream for him. That word was spilled out of his mouth. "Jungkook, do not hurt him, please." I had no choice there. I didn't know who he was, what he wanted to do, what he would do to me. I had to choose you and only if my brother's life wasn't at stake. He swallowed at the horrible memories in his mind. They had to face his hand and he cried silently. They were so wrong. None of them deserved this, and now the truth that Jungkook did want to marry him, that made they even more guilty. And now he didn't want to forgive him for his betrayal. And now they wanted nothing more than to beg him for forgiveness. He did want to marry him, and all this time they had damned him to hell. They feel so guilty, so worse. He had been suffering all this time, and they was cursing him even more. They hiccup and remove his hand from his face. They wiped the tear and stared at him. Another sob word thought and Jungkook's lips were tucked downward. His eyes held the apology. They kept me for a month. When they let me go, it took my injuries 2 more months to heal. I was so close to that. My legs were broken, and I was in a coma for 3 weeks. If it wasn't for my friend, then I would have died. And the worst thing was that no one even cared here. He gulped. In the start, they didn't hit me or did anything horrible. They just kept me in a room, treating me like a normal human being. But one day, it started hitting me, and it was so horrifying. I didn't know the reason they, but when I turned and saw you married with Jungkook, I know the reasons, all the question and answered. He was angry because one of the John married you, and they made their plan failed. They sobbed and rubbed his forehead against his bicep. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. All this time, I thought, no, Taehyung, you have nothing to apologize for. Jungkook lifted his head and wiped his tear away. I didn't blame you for anything. I just wanted you to stop hating me. I'm sorry. I didn't want to hate you. I'm very sorry. They covered his face with his hand and cried so on his shoulder. I know, Taehyung. I know. He rubbed the head and smoothed him. But you need to hear me out. I apologize for the disturbance, but I would like to talk with my wife now. They jerked and wiped his tear. He turned his head over shoulder. Jungkook stood up and slipped his hand inside the pocket. Jungkook's face was very hard, and his blue eyes were dark with the rage. His jaw was clenched together tightly, and his glove fixed on his brother. They didn't even care about what he thought. They didn't even care the picture he and Jungkook painted might ruin their relationship. His mind was too messed up. And Jungkook, there were too many loopholes in what they heard, but they were not interrupted. Then they would have been aware of everything. I should leave. Jungkook said, nodded at Jungkook. He didn't say anything and left without even a word. Jungkook slowly stalked toward, his steps smooth and slow. What is the meaning of all this day? His voice was cold and he spoke. Taehyung's emotions were everywhere at that time and he didn't want another fight with him. I don't know, they murmured, rubbing his arm as more tears gathered in his eyes. They pressed his lips together to stop himself from crying. What had he done? They didn't regret marrying Jungkook. He liked his husband, but the reality that Jungkook had been betrayed and they was the one who feeling all the time made it worse. They had been holding over him so long. He didn't want him, his own brother, Jungkook, to talk about him, to bring him up. They didn't ever care that he would have been situation he is suffering all this time for. Him? He didn't know. He groaned his day. What? What was he doing here, Tae? He yelled, losing his patience, and they flinched, he might thinking that they was cheating on him. What did his life become so complicated? Please, don't yell. They murmured and Jungkook word. In his mind, the worst thing was that no one even cared here. He was right. They didn't care, and they feel the worst for it. I'm not betraying you. I don't want to fight to you. They covered his face, embraced to himself. Jungkook's expression was soft, and anger but a little before took over. Why was he crying? Did Jungkook say something? Shaking his head, he stepped over Tae and placed his hand to Tae's shoulder. I'm so scared. I'm so angry at myself. I don't know what to do. He placed his hand on Tae's head and rubbed his scalp, lightly smoothing him. What the hell happened? It was definitely something Jungkook had said. He needed to have talk with him. What happened? He gently said. They pulled back and wiped his tear. They avoided any eye contact with him and stepped back. I'm sorry. I need some time. They walked out of the room, up to into his room. Jungkook pinched the bridge of his nose, clenching his jaw and kicked the table in range.